All right, well, looks like it's 5:30. We'll go ahead and get started. It's getting pretty quiet in here, so we better do something. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's 5:30, Tuesday, the 15th. Looks like we have a full council tonight. Appreciate all the council members being here with us. And we'll address the minutes really quickly. Are there any amendments or corrections to the minutes that need to be made?
I saw a couple. I'm not listed as one who was in attendance, but I was sworn in, so. And then just spelling error on councilmen versus councilman on when I was sworn in.
Yeah, there's actually councilmen throughout it. Councilman Roosevelt, Councilman.
That's all I know.
There's also the way versus why.
Did you get all? Did you get those? Any others?
Would we approve with the corrections?
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And my councilman Baird, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right.
Excuse me, Mayor.
I'm missing. Yeah, it's not on there, the agenda, but we're going to do that right now. So we have a few guests with us tonight. One of those being Pastor D. Cairoli. He's agreed to say our prayer, and then following the prayer, we'll follow our chief of police in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we have to meet together. We thank you that you've protected us and kept us in the palm of your hand. We thank you that you let us see future things before they happen so that we can react right. Father, we just ask right now for that incredible gift of leadership that you've given us to be able to be magnified and used in such a good way that we can predict things that are coming our way, that we can plan for things that are coming our way, so that we can not only feel the heart, but the pulse of our community. Help us, Lord, right now to be a help and not a hindrance, a strength and not a weakness, a joy and not a sorrow. Help us be there for each other and knit us together by your love, forge us together as we see challenges coming, and help us to accomplish great things as we follow your will. We ask this in the mighty name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Also, just a note on the agenda, we do have our public comment period. We'll go ahead and consider it this time. Is there anybody in the public that would like, or in the audience that would like to take just a few minutes and address the council? You can take up to 3 minutes. And we've asked you that you say your name and address this. Anyone that would like to take opportunity tonight to do that? Mrs. Baird?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Seeing that, we'll go ahead and move to the first item, and that's swearing in of our new chaplain. We'll have Chief Watkins do that.
First, I'd like to read a little bit, explain about a chaplain to the council and to the public here. This is actually the first position in Uinta Basin of this, what we've been stated here. Just to give you a little background, I wrote some up here. So law enforcement chaplains apply their training in emotion and stress management, diversity and spirituality to help communities in times of crisis. They help community members, law enforcement, their families, victims by offering counseling and providing services. The main function of a police chaplain in law enforcement agencies is fostering officer well-being. where chaplains serve as peacemakers during crisis and support at funerals, highly emotional, critical incidents, for example, where individuals experience deep emotions. These personal interactions increase the likelihood that our officers and the community will seek out help from the chaplain. Chaplain D has been invaluable. Time he has spent with us the last several months for strengthening and supporting our officers and community. At this time, I would like your support in officially swearing in a civilian member, or Chaplain D is a civilian member of the Roosevelt City Police Department. Come on up here and get sworn at. Will you take your lovely wife with you? Come on up. Let me just, here?
Right here?
Yeah. Yeah, let me face towards him right there. You need to, yep, okay, you can show.
You raise your hand and repeat after me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I, D. Caroli,
I, D. Kyroli,
promise to minister to our police officers
promise to minister to our police officers
and the public at large
and the public at large
to the best of my God-given ability.
to the best of my God-given abilities.
I promise to maintain confidentiality
I promise to maintain confidentiality,
and to serve as a source of support
to serve as a source of support
and counsel to our police officers,
and counsel to our police officers,
their families,
their families,
and to the public
and to the public
while performing my duties
while performing my duties
as a volunteer police chaplain for Roosevelt City.
as a volunteer police chaplain for Roosevelt City.
I understand that my service
I understand that my service
in this capacity is a special privilege,
in this capacity is a special privilege,
and that few will ever be asked to do so.
that few will be ever asked to do so,
And therefore,
and therefore
I will hold myself to the highest ethical standard
I will hold myself to the highest ethical standard
and do my very best to encourage,
and do my very best to encourage,
support, and minister,
support, and minister,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Chief Watkins, go ahead with the next item. And just, I don't think you could have picked a better man for the job, to be honest with you. I think the whole community would support that decision, and we love you, Dee. We appreciate you.
Love you too. Thank you very, thank you for everything you did.
He's all right.
Don't ask her.
I'm gonna bring an item. Obviously, whenever we bring an item up for surplus, I have to have, council vote to surplus an item. And surplus a canine, a dog, tonight, to retire her, canine Lucy. So I have a tradition that I brought from another department I like to instill in our department. First of all, and ask if for a support, council vote to surplus canine Lucy.
All those in favor?
Oh, I'm sorry, can I interrupt? Sorry.
Yeah. For $1. So do we have a motion to surplus the canine to its owner for $1?
So moved.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Appreciate it. This time right now, I actually like to purchase that dog. This one here is mine for a treasure. And I'd like to officially give it to Sergeant Mariah Harrison. Congratulations. Mike. Lucy, you want to take a stroll around a bit? Say hi. There you go. There's the dog lover right there. She's on it.
I think she might have drugs on her.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Can I have one quick question? How long have you had that dog?
I've only had it a couple of years, but previous handler had it
Okay. How long have you been in service then? 5, 6
5 or
years?
6 years now.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're working on our dog program, just in case the council's wondering. And then on a side note, also, we're working on some stats, and we have those things.
and work in that direction.
Thank you.
Thanks. So for our next item, it's the employee of the month. And I've got some pretty long, juicy stories about this individual. So this is something that's just fairly new. We've had one other get this award, and tonight this award will go to Dustin Blinds for all the good work that he does. So I'll give a little, I won't read them all, but I'll read a few. So basically, he was nominated by somebody in the public, which is a good thing. It was mentioned his great work on the ice rink. He's dedicated to making the parks a place where people can congregate and enjoy their time. This is from Brent. He says a few years back, Mutt and Dustin was taking down a backstop. Brent, I hope you're watching. After the Little League World Series, when a pipe swung around and hit Dustin in the head and knocked him cold. Are we supposed to be reading this in this meeting? Mutt thought he was history, but he came around. You would have thought it would have knocked some sense into him, but he's still here.
It did good.
And then he says, due to modern technology, there's no safe place at the park. Dustin was able to control the sprinklers from his phone. And on a rare occasion, Dustin finds me working, I usually get wet. So, anyway, well, congratulations, Dustin, again, for the award. You can come on up, and I'll give you another one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, thank you.
All right, we have our fire chief with us tonight, and looks like he's to give us a year-end report.
Yep.
No.
So all of you have the information in your packets. We just come each year and kind of give you an update. Year-end report, I guess, as it says. Fires we ran on last year, different stats, so that everybody's aware. So the first one you have in your page, in your packet, breaks down. We broke them down into 7. They're the most calls we go on, and then we punch each of the calls into those. And this, the hazmat one has the answer there, and it explains down further below. In hazmat, we consider anything that is an oil spill, a fuel spill, a gas line break, anything that's along those lines is broken into the hazmat category. And then false alarms include call out, cancel en route, call on a smoke alarm, if there's nothing there, call on CO alarms. And you can see when we get further back in here, the alarm calls have gone up quite a bit. And we attribute that mostly to ADT and Vivint, these alarm companies that come in and install these systems, and then somebody burns the toast, we get called out. The family doesn't know that we were called out until we show up with a big truck, lights on. Don't know why we're there.
I know when I was on the department, those were our favorite, for sure. The false alarms.
And the other problem, the other thing that we have is a public education thing, probably as far as false alarms. A lot of these smoke detectors anymore are built to last 7 to 10 years. And a lot of the times when we get calls that are smoking, as soon as we pull it down and look at it, it's out. They need to be replaced. And I'm not sure the public's aware that they have a lifespan that should be replaced now until we come and pull it down and say there's something wrong, except we buy any more smoke alarms we have. So,
Sunshine, is that something we can get out on a Facebook post?
yeah, we had one just last week and their alarms were from 2005. So it's quite a bit. We have it broke down so that you can see what our response times are. The 9 minutes in city limits is about where we've been for quite a few years. And just so that I think most of the council's aware, but those that are not, what we consider our response time is as soon as our pager goes off, no matter where we're at, until we get in the truck and arrive on scene. And so if it's middle of the night, we gotta get out, make a dress, or for work, we gotta be working, whatever it is, it's from the time that pager goes off to we're on scene. And so the reason the others are longer times, obviously, is because we could be going to assist lighting and that adds 20 to 30 minutes, depending where it's at, on that Duchesne County time, similar to the county, so. But for a volunteer fire department, 13-minute average overall is pretty good response time, so. I feel pretty good on that. Our man hours are down. We take how many of those calls were and how many were on that fire and how much time was there, so we can see how many man hours were spent. And the average last year for the firefighters was 7 hours. And I forgot to mention, but we'll see it as we get in there. 2021 was the highest call volume year that we've had to date. 162 calls. Prior to that, so last year we had 7 more calls that we had as higher volume year. So on the next page, we have it broke down so that you can see the difference between 2020 and 2021. Dumpster fires took a big jump. Dumpster fires are one of those we used to have a lot of, so we kept it in the stats, and they've kind of gone down quite a bit. Why we had so much more this year, I'm not really sure. I know people living in town think they can burn like they did in the county was a couple of those. So that kind of stuff. And then we break it down into the jurisdictions so you can see where our time is spent on each call. This year on the city limits, there was a 30% increase over 2020. And the only reason I point out Duchesne County is only being a 7% increase is if we go to the next page that shows the man hours. If we go down to Duchesne County, even though theirs was only a 7% increase, our man hours was a 105% increase. And a big part of the reason we keep the man hours in there is when contract time comes up. If we just go to the counties and say, here's how many fires we have there, versus we're not talking about having man hours to justify what we're asking them to do. So, and each of those are just like say in there so you can keep track of what we're doing and help you in that. And then the next one just breaks down the percentage of runs per jurisdiction. And it's kind of redundant from the previous one, but that was man hours, and this runs in each one's entities. If you have questions, anytime. Next one is our response by day of the week. Our busiest day last year was on Thursday. It seems like Thursdays and Fridays is where they've been for the last quite a few years. I can't give you an explanation why Thursday's more, but on the next chart that we have, time of day is 5 o'clock, and that has been real consistent. I don't know if it's people are getting off work, let's go light the field on fire, or they lit the field earlier, think it's out, they go in and the wind comes up. But 5 o'clock has been real consistent for our busiest time of year for quite a few years. And then the last, well, not last, the responses per truck. We had, when we got 208, which was our 2016 pump, it kind of took a big jump, and our aerial, which is fire 207, dropped quite a bit. So to make sure that we're using them and getting the use out of them, we made a policy that if we have just an alarm, we take 207 off so that truck gets out, gets you in. The only one that's kind of hard right now to run is fire 210, that's our education truck. And the only reason it's got the 7 calls on it that it does is because we decided so that that truck gets some use. If we have a hazmat spill in town, we throw the kitty litter on it and we take it so it's getting used. And just so the council's aware, it's a 2008 with 17. So it doesn't really go out.
It's not the same one that was there when I was there, was it?
But that one we had to start. This is a truck. But it's really good shape, but it's hard to run it out. For example, it has a call up in the middle and we get an extrication call. And it's the only truck with that extrication for the so, yeah, be careful on where we send it. The last few pages are for your information. That's each of the firefighters' response to training meetings per month, and then the other page is for fire runs. And for our bylaws, they have to attend 75% of their training and 40% of the firearms to be able to be in good standing. If you look through them, there is one that is below that 40%. When they drop below that percentage, we have a committee that meets and they discuss what to do with them. They pull in, talk to them, let them know where they're at. Not very If it's safe, consistent that way, that they get their 3 strikes and they're gone. If they bring their numbers up, then it's anything else? Any questions?
Any questions for Chief?
Well, that was very thorough.
I did have one, and it might have been in there, but how many wildland fires did we have last year where it was so dry?
I did have that in my notes there, so I missed it. The wildland fires was 46, and that is a drop from 2020.
Which is interesting.
So, it was good that we had a drop, because like you said, as dry as it was, we were concerned, we were really pretty busy. But I don't know, people realize what's going on and pay more attention to what they were playing. So it was a drop. It's good.
A lot of fireworks.
Yeah. The only other thing I want to say is thanks to the council, we are slowly getting in all of our new PPE. It's just like everything else. It's the supply chain. So it's all been ordered, it's slowly stringing in. What there's
And the fire tender, what's the status on that?
We have, I sent Rhonda and John an update. They sent a thing from Freightliner of a price increase, but once they build the truck, we're hoping that that'll balance out. But as of now, I had an email Friday that I had to give them an okay to make a couple of changes on the truck through Freightliner. And they were changes that if I want the truck, I could approve them. It didn't cost anything, and I said, well, I'm not waiting another year. So it was just a change in the axle, because we're moving the truck, and in the cover, which weren't anything big. But as of now, they still have it on tap to be done under end of April, 1st May, and then she'll get the truck and build it, and she's guessing July. So that's what we're at.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Golf course update. Aaron, welcome to the meeting.
Mayor, council, before custom leads, congratulations, well deserved. Thank you. He's great to work with, even though he's not on the golf course, he's always willing to help us out. Appreciate that. This is my yearly report as well. Usually, typically, we only talk about kind of that last number, the fundraising number, to give you guys some information on how much was raised through the various tournaments and charities of the course for the year. So, yeah, some information on that. But where this year was the best year on record, we wanted to give you a few more numbers and let you know that we're trying to cut into that subsidiary as much as we can. So this last year was busy. Like I mentioned, it is one of the busiest years ever at the golf course. You can see from 2020 to 2021, basically every category is up. So that a lot of hard work by the staff, and we're excited to see what this next year brings. Hopefully we can keep increasing things. That last number, the previous year was down from just about every year because we did have some COVID tournament cancellations. With that being said, they were still able to generate around $100,000 that, stays right there in the basin and goes to various schools and clubs and organizations and foundations. This past year, we were able to schedule some more tournaments. That number went up again. And that's probably one of the highest numbers that we've seen of how much was raised. So,
How many tournaments was that, do you know?
yeah, so last year, like big corporate kind of big events, all day, 144 player full events, we had 19 last year. And then we had about 16 smaller events that still participate and raise some money.
35 events, that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
And you even inherited some from Vernal, because Vernal wouldn't do as many, right?
Yeah, we've been picking up some. Vernal's not wanting them like they used to, and I think word's getting out that we like them and do a good job running them, so they're excited to come over. This year's shaping up to look about the same. So far, we've got a lot of tournaments rebooking. couple new ones have been added, so trying to figure out scheduling has been interesting. We're trying not to take up too much of the public's peak times. Kind of spread those out throughout the year, so.
That's great. Looks good now. Well, I know Kevin, another time, but I've heard a little bit about some, the carts and some of the issues that you've had with the carts and things like that. I think that, I don't know, that's something that's upcoming, right?
Yeah,
And you're-
we're looking at solving some of our issue problems, and we'll be coming to you with some solutions hopefully in the next little bit for approval. Yeah, well, with that, on that, not on those stats, is we hosted the 2A Boys State Championship this last fall, which was a lot of fun. It's hard to get those state championships. They're, decided on by the Utah PGA, and they've got 150 courses throughout the state to choose. So been lobbying for that for a while. We were awarded it last year, which was a lot of fun. We had over 300 people come into the community from, out of town, and we're here for a few days, and had a lot of good feedback, and so I thought that was a good opportunity for us to showcase what we have and bring some out of town people to Roosevelt. So.
Well, appreciate all you do. Are there any questions?
No, I just appreciate the report. I think it's important, as I've told you many times, that the golf course is more important than people recognize sometimes. Not everyone uses it, I understand that, but $175,000 raised for our community is impressive. And then having the 2A golf tournament, bringing people from Vernal for some of their stuff, I think all that adds a lot of value to that golf course, and people need to understand that, as well as I just appreciate the, cards, fees, different things, the pro shop, and I appreciate having the pro shop. I bought things there as well, and I appreciate having that advantage there. So and again, just grateful for what you do, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you for your support.
I see more slides. Do you have more information for us, Eric?
No slides, but I can cover those if you want to go to them. Slides.
Hey, we'll put you on the spot. Thanks again. I appreciate what you do. We did have the 2022 Street Reconstruction project, but that's going to be at the next meeting. There's a couple of things that was added to that project, so, go ahead. Baker, right?
I told her to be able to his turn. Yeah, so we are adding a few secondary irrigation lines to that project, getting a few things ironed out there. There's quite a bit of interest. We've got 5 prime bidders potentially right now for it, which is really good. Kirby's done a lot of work trying to get some of the great contractors coming. They've done work for the city before. So we look forward to that. We've moved the bid opening to March 8th, still at 11 a.m. at our office. Anybody's welcome. I think we got the invite to some of you at least. We can pass that around to anybody else if they want to come. But we'll have the bid opening, bids read aloud publicly. We'll prepare a bid tab, and then we'll get on the agenda for the 15th of next month and report on that for recommendation for award. So,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. IEC contract, this should be pretty quick. Josh, you want to explain that a little bit? Maybe give a precursor.
Sure.
This is something the council already approved. This is the Tommy Winterton, the entity that Tommy Winterton works with. We did sign this contract once before, but we have not paid them the money, and they haven't really done. They did a little bit, but they were thinking it was starting now. So go ahead and.
Exactly, the mayor described it perfectly. They're anticipating starting January 1st, and they have done some work already. Like a lot of what they worked on, there's NDA signed. I will tell you, if half of what they're working on comes through, this contract is going to be worth its weight in gold. So they've been really good to work with. Thomas Winterton's been in multiple times, working on a lot of projects. And again, as Mayor said, council already approved this once, but we're just changing the start date to January 1st. So really it gives us extra time at the same price.
Yeah. Any questions?
I don't have a question, just a comment. And I was at the meeting with Councilman Baird, and we talked to Tommy Winterton, Thomas, and it would be nice periodically, I know there's in non-disclosure agreements, I understand that, but it'd be nice if they could come and kind of periodically kind of share what they're, what they can share with what they're working on. Based on what Thomas said, I agree with you that this is definitely worth the money, so I'm not concerned that way. But I think it is nice for us to just, kind of what's going on or what they're doing, to the extent they can. I don't know if that, maybe they can, I don't know.
That is something we did discuss. He is planning on coming to council and giving updates. He was just under the understanding we're starting until January 1st, but that is a discussion we've had. So you're right on par with what he's planning.
Yeah, I mean, after talking to him, it sounds like there's some cool things possibly happening. I'd love to hear about those right as soon as we can, after the, non-disclosure stuff is all over, so.
Absolutely.
Keep us informed.
I move we approve the contract.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. And Bird Scooter, this is something Josh has been, this is his pet project.
Okay, well, I won't go that far. This is not Mayor Bird affiliated. If you've seen the scooters around Salt Lake City or Vernal, Bird is one of the companies that does those electric scooters. So they have presented us with the same MOU that they presented Vernal City. And just a little background on these, Bird Scooter does operate, and they do it entirely at zero expense to the city. I reached out to a couple cities that have them. One option they have is they can just come get a business license and operate the scooters. The benefit of an MOU is they give the city a lot more say. They want to be good partners with the city. And with that, there's different options that we can have as events come. For example, UBIC, we have a huge event. Logistically, that might not be a good thing for Bird scooters. We can put up geofences to where they only can ride in certain areas. So how they work is they're all GPS coordinated. So if they go outside of their zone, the scooter shuts off. There's a lot that goes into it with the hours of operation. Really, the MOU, what they're looking at is that we're not going to restrict these any more than we would a bicycle. And again, they're just like a bicycle. They're supposed to be ridden on streets and bike lanes, not sidewalks. They're treated just like a bicycle from the law's perspective. I did check with Chief Watkins. He's here tonight as well. Vernal City, as you know, has these in theirs. He's worked with them. So I'm grateful if you have any questions specifically on his end, he can answer those. And so the MOU today would be to approve one similar to, well, in fact, identical to Vernal Cities, where we are going to allow them to operate, but they're in communication with us to make sure things are working with us and how they're operating properly within the city. There are simple things in there. They talk about the helmets, minimum age of 18, hours of operation. All that is included in here. And again, the key here is with the MOU is they're giving the city more say than just getting a business license and operating.
So question on how it works. Does somebody apply with Bird online and get a license so that they can use them, or how does that all work?
So they do have an operator here in town that will be a local employee that's in charge of cleaning, maintenance, charging. And then if an individual say, I want to ride one, they're parked on the street, I have to go scan a little code, and then I log in with my phone, click all the liability things, pay right there, and then I can operate it. It charges me per minute. I think it's $1 to unlock, and then a per minute fee after that. Then when I'm done with it, I actually have to park it, take a picture, send that to Bird to show that I parked it properly. Otherwise, I can get fined as a user. So there's a lot of verification. You have to have a smartphone. You have to verify you're 18. But there is a local person in town that is responsible for maintenance, repairs, charging, all of that. So it does stimulate a small economic opportunity for employment for one person.
I got one more question. And vandalism is not a liability to the city at all. They would cover any vandalism and all that. Okay.
Yes. And in fact, in the MOU, there's an indemnification clause, and they do carry all their own insurance for that.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of bike lanes. Would that require us to paint, add bike lanes?
Only if we want. And as we're working on a trail system, I want to say, hopefully soon we'll have more bike lanes. That is the plan. But as of right now, we're not required to put any more out there. As far as they're asking us, it's just to treat them like bicycles.
Chief, wonder what your thoughts are on this.
I worked Vernal City on patrol, and they have these. I honestly, the only thing I can dig up is that I think we would have issues with. We do have a little bit of, how should I phrase it? Inability to watch or some of the intersections and crosswalks and stuff like that. I can see that increasing. But that goes along with liability, and in a nutshell, I think it's actually a good thing. So.
I was interested to hear that it's 18 and older. When my family and I went to Paris, we rode these all over the place, and my young kids were on. I didn't get mine.
How do they verify that,
Mr. Wade?
are they 18 or?
When you log in with your smartphone, you have to verify that you're 18, so.
So I haven't logged in, and I've unlocked 3 or 4.
Yeah, so you're supposed to verify that every rider is 18.
They were.
You're also gonna verify that you're wearing a helmet. We know that's not a good
I was gonna say, I don't know.
You are supposed to wear a helmet.
I guess in a nutshell, it's like everything else is gonna open up something. But I think it's a good thing. So when we were talking, we did a little bit of public education too. We were planning on doing that with some of our crosswalk issues and things. So we'll just compile it all together.
Any other questions?
With group, which I'm not against, I would like to kind of keep track with the police if there are an increase of problems, if we feel like it's not a good thing that we,
Yeah,
we could adjust, because I'm not opposed either, but at the same token, I just want to kind of, or you have more incidents of things because of those, that maybe we could say, you know what, this isn't really working for our city, and then we could.
Is there a, because you said they can get a business license, they can actually do this without the MOU. Is there anything that we can come and say at some point in time, like?
The MOU does have a 30-day termination clause. We can terminate anytime within 30 days, as far as the MOU. As far as if they went the other route, I have not researched that. I apologize, I don't have an answer to that. But the MOU, we can cancel at any time, for any reason, with 30-day notice.
With our new report writing system, I don't think it'd be too difficult to pull up bird scooters or anything like that and come up with some general idea. I mean, like I said, we've had a few things where they're running into their own cars in the parking lot of Jubilee and Vernal, it comes out of their credit card and doesn't even establish a police report. I mean, they're all, I don't think I've done one, learning north that, not that that's not gonna happen, but we can, I'll make note of that, and then if it does, if the big issue comes up or something, we can address it.
I can't imagine it doing that. I just hate to do it, approve it, and then all of a sudden we have more incident of something we haven't accounted for. And you're like, hey, wait a minute, this isn't what we thought, it wasn't working.
And that was my question again. Are we approving them to actually operate in the city, or is this just a memorandum of understanding between us?
Yes, this is just an MOU, so memorandum of understanding.
And that's what I just want to make sure. Okay, so we're not approving whether they can come or not. Nor I don't know that we can unless we maybe change some of our ordinances. But this is just an approval of a memorandum of understanding between the two parties. But I don't think, because not like if we didn't like what they were doing, I don't know that at some point we'd be able to say, okay, take your stuff and leave our city. I don't know that we could do that. We could cancel the MOU, but I don't think we can tell them just to leave. We grant. Okay, so I just want to make sure the council's clear on that.
Thank you for clarifying that. I didn't understand that part.
And the key benefit with the MOU is we do have, say we're partners with them as far as like UBIC. We could say, we don't want those around the park during this time of year, and they can put a geofence. So that's the benefit of the MOU as opposed to them just coming in and operating.
Definitely with the MOU. Definitely.
I was just gonna ask Grant, have you read the contract and does it look good to you?
Yeah, and it should be clear that an MOU and a contract are not
Okay,
necessarily
yeah.
the same thing. And in this situation, I would say that it is not strong on all the elements of a contract. It's just giving us some input. We know what they're doing. They know what we expect. But I have reviewed it. I don't have any problems with it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve. I'll second.
Okay, you got those? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And last, well, kind of last, CIB project, go ahead.
So with the CIB updated list, previously we had a 1 year and then a 2 to 5 year list. They're only asking for a 1 year list from now on. We will still have a 2 to 5 year list internally. We are tracking our projects, but we do need to get our criteria sent in. We technically have till March, but we don't want to delay on this. We do need to prioritize this. I have met with the mayor, I've met with the department heads of what we feel our priorities are. So our recommendation tonight would be to keep our same 7 projects we have, but re-rank them. But this is just our recommendation to council, and council will approve of what our recommendation and the list is sent to you back. So the recommendations from staff are, we rank number 1, the ball fields and park. Number 2, street reconstruction. 3, the cemetery expansion with building. 4, water line construction. 5, airport fueling station. 6, sewer line construction. And 7, the biking path / nature park. So again, keeping with those same 7 projects, but reprioritizing them based off of upcoming needs. And I'm here to answer any questions, and again, this is the time that you could add projects to, we could take away. We just need to send our priority list to you back for CIB projects. And a reminder, any project that we're applying to CIB for, unless it's an emergency, does need to be on this list.
Just thought as well. Sure. As of yesterday. No. So, part of the reason for the prioritization, Mr. Bacon said that the ball fields were, up there, number 1 priority. We all know that we've already committed to build those ball fields, but we did get feedback from Commissioner Hanson that now would be a really favorable time to try to go for a project like that. Where we're a producing county, they're looking favorable towards those counties, and we feel like we can get a really good funding opportunity at the ball fields, where in previous years we may not have been able to. Not to mention, part of the reason of not putting the ball fields in one of the top spots is because we didn't want to go and ask for money for ball fields and then have to go back and ask for money for infrastructure like roads and everything else. But we don't feel like we're going to be deemed on that, or that's going to be counted as a negative against us at this point. And so where those are, we already have a good amount of money to match. We do have the $375,000 that we received from the sale of the old ball fields where the library is being built. We still have $400,000 in ARPA money, which I don't think we should use all of that money for that, but we could dip into that a little bit. They've loosened the strings on that, correct? So that's something we could utilize towards that. So we have a really good matching already. I think we've got pretty good support from the community. And with all of those things in combination going to the ball field, we may be able to get that. I still feel strongly because I would like to see that more of a community project where, we just, the grassroots project where we're doing more of the work ourselves. But it is, this could alleviate that to a degree and get us to where we can build that much sooner. So that's kind of why it was prioritized up there towards the top. The second was the streets, and then, on down. But just to give you a little bit of background on that, any input or feedback from the council on the list?
I have a question on the water line construction. Which water line is that? Is that secondary, or is that the North Crescent area, or what? It just says water line construction.
It's part of it, the North Crescent area, but also our transite lines in town that are undersized and the transite needs to be.
So it's a combination?
Yes.
Okay.
And I do have an opinion on that, and it's just an opinion. you know, we have quite a bit of, we have our secondary lines, transit lines and things like that within the city limits. And I think that 1.5 million does reflect that line that we talked about going from basically the middle of the highway over to North Crescent. In my opinion, I don't feel like Roosevelt City should be investing in that amount of infrastructure for non-resident people, but, you know, we have enough projects and things like that within Roosevelt City. I mean, we'd have to see, but that's just my opinion.
There's other type of funding for that. Matter of fact, that Jones and Deville is looking into, putting an application in for this all grant money.
Yeah.
And that's what I suggested that they look at for say that project.
One other thought that I think came up that I had even before, where this would be benefiting county residents as much or more than city residents, might be something that we bring up in our county council meeting and see if they're willing to partner in that project to make that happen as well, where they're going to get as much benefit as anyone out of that. So that way, it's not just Roosevelt City doing a project to benefit a few members of the county in reality. So
Where was the water line on the list?
Water line number 4.
I'm almost wondering if that one maybe should drop down a little bit, or is that
what's
based
the
up?
water line?
We have airport fueling station at 5, sewer line at 6, and bike nature park at 7.
I agree with Don, because we do have an issue and we mentioned it today in our meeting. I know we cambered those sewer lines up on the northeast side of town a while ago, and we have some.
Yeah, they're mid block and there's no alleys or anything and they're undersized. And just to get to them to do any maintenance is an issue. And it's been an issue for years. I've had it in there for quite a few years.
Yeah, and so maybe that might.
I would feel better based on Mayor's comments on that water line and your comments, Kirby, of moving that water line down, maybe even to 7 or 6 if you felt like, but I just feel like there's other things that are more pressing, especially for Roosevelt City with that. And it gives us time to, like you said, talk to the county and maybe look at some other avenues there. So anyway, that was the only one I was wondering, because it didn't specifically say where, and that's why I was wondering if it was Roosevelt City or and I realize some of it is Roosevelt City, and you know, maybe that's why we move maybe do sewer and then do the water. If you felt like, I just feel like it's a little high there based on the fact some of it's going to North Crescent or potentially.
Right. As far as prioritizing the water lines, you know, I agree. We look in town for the infrastructure first in town. You know, the transit lines. But if these gonna be tied together, that's the problem, because I'd hate to see the progress for in the city, the transit lines being replaced that are 4-inch, that are having issues with all the connections on them, and being upgraded to 8-inch, which would help our system in whole and develop our system. You know, for more fire flows, for more areas to be open. And I agree, that's more county, but if they're together, that would kind of be an issue.
Is that, well, sorry, Kirby, it's $1.5 million. Is that what we think would be just for, what do you think, what part of that would be for the city part? I mean, just the ballpark, obviously, it's hard to.
You know, we could use every bit of that in town, I'll be honest with you.
Could you? Okay. Well, I feel better about that than if it was, if, you know, I would rather have it in Roosevelt City
And I'm
first.
lowballing, but we probably got at least 60% still transit lines in town.
Okay.
It's more than people think.
That's not
So,
good.
no.
Okay, well then leave it where it's at then. I can support it now on that. Like I said, if it was just, if the lion's share was North Crescent, I can't, but I can support it if it's mostly Roosevelt City and you're trying to upgrade the lines in town, so.
Keep in mind too, guys, you know, as we do the roads, all this is kind of a combined project, because we're gonna wanna do the infrastructure with the roads.
Right.
Especially if they are transit lines, like we're doing now, and looking at the secondary, the sidewalk, curb and gutter. That's why these projects are so expensive. But as long as we're working on them and toward them, you know.
So,
Yeah. Does State Street have any of the transite in it? I
Yeah.
know we were thinking about.
Yes, these first 3 blocks to Lagoon needs replaced.
Gotcha. Going back to the ball fields, and I'm not, and just know that we can adjust those too, we can, even the ball field, but we'll throw this out there. Duchesne County or Duchesne City, all of a sudden is wanting a complex, a ball field complex in Duchesne City. But there are 3 teams, maybe. That's on record. Anyway, it's a $3 million project. And they're most likely going to be going to CID. So if we are going to do the ball fields, we want to get our application in the players.
Mayor, I was told just today, UNT County is looking at a project to put in some new ball fields out there next to the rec center. I didn't know that till just today.
And unfortunately, we're, UNT County, Duchesne County, we're not competing much with them, but within Duchesne County, we'll be competing directly with Duchesne City.
and
And we looked at within the county as a whole.
And can you just explain some of the benefits of having the ball fields built?
Yeah, well, right now there's several tournaments throughout the state, but the rural tournaments are really growing. And so I know we're having at least 3 tournaments here this year, 2 softball tournaments, and then Cal Rec All-Stars is coming here this summer as well. But if we were to increase the ball fields, we could have a lot bigger tournaments. There's a few tournaments throughout the state. They bring in upwards of 300, 400 people. And so the last Cal Ripken tournament we had 33 teams come in. And so that's 12 kids per team. It's a lot of people, a lot of revenue for the city itself. And a lot of these small towns, they have 4 or 5 tournaments lined up through June and July. And so, it's good revenue for the city itself.
Not just boys baseball, right? How many young men or boys participate in boys baseball? I know
We have right around 500 last year, and then another 300 girls for softball.
And that's what I
A
was
lot of
going to
softball
say.
tournaments will come in as well.
The girls softball, they were using those fields where the library's going. They were using that field, and now they're kind of out of field. So it's almost a necessity just to get us back to net where we were at. We're going to net 2 extra fields, but really we needed them anyway. And I've already been chewed out or talked to by several residents about when we do this complex, they wanted to make sure that there would be some places for the girls softball to play.
We need baseball and softball fields. Right now, we're roughly 800 kids. We're pushing on to 5 or 6 fields through the spring, and so it's kind of a battle. And then you have the travel leagues as well, and they're one practice, and so we don't have enough fields for everybody to really get their time in.
There could possibly be 11 girls travel teams this summer.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
So we make revenue from it.
Yep. Okay. We can. Yeah.
Well, we charge as well. If you look at the bang for the buck, 1.5 million for a 4-plex, and you're servicing 800 kids. And then all the adult leagues and everything else, and it's and they're all paying. I mean, it's not like each one of them. How much do we charge per kid?
For the league, we charge 15 per kid.
$15.
Yep, and then it's 200 per travel team to play, to practice. So,
Well, Roosevelt City's charging $15 per kid.
yes,
So we get $15
Roosevelt
a
City
kid.
charges Cal Ripken baseball and softball $15 a kid.
Nice.
It's the same with soccer, and there's soccer fields coming along with these baseball and softball fields. And I believe they can do soccer tournaments as well, because it'll be a pretty good sized soccer fields.
And then, of course, it beautifies and makes it.
Is it quality of life?
Yeah, quality of life.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want a good justification for that, because putting that as first is kind of hard in my mind, but I feel like it's good. I feel good about it.
And if I can add, these types of discussion on the record is fantastic.
Yeah.
CIB does occasionally look at these, and it's good to have these conversations to show your vetting these projects, figuring out what we really do want to do and why we're doing it. This is perfect conversation.
And I'll be honest, I was the first to not want the ball fields even close to the top, because I didn't want it to affect our other funding for, our infrastructure projects and things like that. But based on the conversation with, a certain commissioner who is actually on the CIP board, and all the other information that we're getting now is a really, really good time to do that, even though it sounds counterintuitive. So do you need a recommendation you've got, or do we?
Yes, the council can approve this so we can send it to you back at the data list.
Okay, will you go ahead and, did you make any modifications?
No, I kept it where it was.
Yeah, I rescinded my thought after getting clarification from Kirby, so.
Okay, excellent. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve as been laid out by Mr. Begg.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman Allen, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. The Mideast equipment auctions consignment agreement, that's off the list until next meeting. And we do have a couple items to consider for future discussion. Sunshine has a few things prepared for us. So.
I don't know how much I really have prepared. It's more questions and things to think about for later. We've been looking at our system for doing live streaming in chambers, and it has some issues that are pretty consistent. Live streaming is not a state requirement for council meetings. I understand we're actually the only ones in the basin who do that. So I wanted some direction from you all. Is that something we'd like to continue doing? Because if so, I feel like there are some necessary improvements we need to make specifically to not necessarily improve the image quality of our cameras, but the reliability. Literally every time I set up council, they go down. I have to freak out at the last minute, try and get them back up, make sure everything's gonna work. Our software is not very intuitive. So there are just some things that, a little improvement would go a long way if we want to continue live streaming. And right now we're live streaming to Facebook, to YouTube. But we also consider that going to Facebook instead, or in addition if our technology allows us to.
What would it require for improving to keep the live stream?
So we looked into getting a bid, and that covers actually a lot of improvements. So it kind of depends on how much we want to improve everything. I have a whole packet, but didn't want to bring it before you without getting some more direction. So, we could make some little improvements, just get a couple of new cameras and some better software, or we could, improve everything from the audio, the video, our screens, it just really depends on what you all feel is important.
Do we know how many viewers you typically have?
Not very many. We get 3, I think was on the last. So we don't get very many. My perspective is that if we offer a better product, we'll get more engagement online. Right? To me, I think that, especially in these times, we could get a lot of community engagement if we were to improve what we're doing. And maybe just specifically, changing over to Facebook instead of YouTube might be an improvement that wouldn't require any additional funds. Maybe just making that switch would get more engagement, but we don't.
So we recorded the video for quite some time, quite a long time. Mm-hmm. Is that something we can, we don't necessarily need to live stream, but I feel like it would probably be important that we still recorded the video. So would we need to make any upgrades to do that?
So I would.
Or they're kind of connected.
Yeah, they're connected. So the reason I sort of phrased it as to continue live streaming is because if we're going to do either, we should probably fix it. Just simple things like the camera's not cooperating. It takes a lot of extra city staff time, and again, some small improvements can make that a lot better. It would be a little less stressful if we weren't committing to live streaming it. If something did go down, we'd go, well, it's fine. We're just not going to have a video this time. So, that's always an option. You just say we don't need to continue to live stream it, but we do want to continue to record it when the system cooperates. We could do that.
I think for transparency, I'd rather at least have it recorded. So I'd rather have better equipment personally. I mean, we're trying to be transparent, let people know what's going on, and I think that's important.
I think where we are, Eddie, live stream it, I think we ought to continue down that route, because I think that if we go the reverse direction, then it just doesn't look as good. And I don't know, that's my opinion. We don't have to spend a whole lot, but if we could at least, do what we need to get it working, I think that would be good.
Well, and we did get a bid that has, different tiers and packages and different, we can select different features, things that are important to us, things that aren't. So, I can provide you all with that bid and, maybe get some review and opinion about what you think would be helpful to have versus what might be superfluous.
One thing to consider too, I was made aware of this, I don't know, a couple days ago, a week ago. One of the thoughts that I've had, and I know Mr. Bake has had, and maybe even several of the council, is that our council chambers are quite small too. And we're pretty crushed. I mean, if you noticed earlier, we had a little bit of space over here, and this was completely full over here, and we really didn't have anything major going on tonight, and we filled this place up, and then some quite often, and we are getting better participation in our meetings and things like that. So as we thought about that, and once this was brought up, we started to look at other options as well as how to expand this room and increase the size of this room, or at least what a council need. And so, knocking out that wall right there might be an option so that it'd go out and for your, I guess Josh has talked to Dean about that, and that's most likely a load-bearing wall, so that could be very expensive. We feel like the best option is to work with the court and see if we could meet in the court chambers, because it's quite a bit larger. And so if we were to do something, my only suggestion would be, let's try to figure out where we might end up meeting and then make that investment there as well. If we could work it out with the court, that we can meet there once a month or even twice a month and then invest this type of stuff into there, then we have the space and also the equipment. I think it would be much better. This room, it's so small, to invest any more money in this, especially where we have Strata come in and invest. I swear it was $40,000 or $50,000 around.
I don't think it was quite that much.
How much was it?
Before I came, so I don't remember.
Maybe look into it. I know it was a lot more than I would have ever guessed.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 36,000 or something like that. I know it's right in that ballpark, because I was shocked.
It surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah, or what?
Yeah, so.
And a lot of the equipment the Sennheisers that you got there is a very good brand. It's just not the right microphone for the job that needs to be done. So that was a lot of what we had. We had a young man that came, and he's an engineer, sound engineer, and he came in here and looked at the chamber, and he gave us this bid based on what we were. I don't know if any of you have gone back to look at any of the recordings, but
Yeah.
our audio and our video look pretty bad. Now, we actually have moved, I don't know if anybody noticed, the camera, and we have a better view. I do think that things are a little bit better, but we're limited with the equipment.
Yeah.
There's only so much we can do.
And the nice thing about the bid we received is that, that's all portable equipment. He did base it on our needs for this room, but it's at least a good starting point for you to review and see, as far as the technology goes, do we want to do what this bid is proposing? And if that means moving it into another room or expanding this room or whatever ends up happening, not only can that technology be moved, but it can be revised if there's space we needed to. So.
One other question, because that might be, that could be a couple months, that could be much longer. Have you talked to Spectre about some of the issues, where we did spend so much money with him? I hate to say names, but it is what it is.
So unfortunately, a lot of the issues that we are having are consistent issues that we have put in work orders for repeatedly.
Okay.
And, I'm not saying that they don't address them, because they do, but they are still persistent issues. And as far as the timeliness of getting things resolved, it doesn't always line up with when our emergencies happen, especially when preparing for council.
That was a very diplomatic way to put that.
Thank you.
I think in my opinion, you bring the bids next time and let's look at them and let's get her done.
Great. The other issue,
I was just gonna say at the ULCT meetings they usually have one or two companies that just do audio. And they have some great packages. I don't know how much they are, but I don't know if that's who you've already
We
got.
had some of those, I think the last time we went, we were talking about, it might have been Josh, but.
No, me and you were there, yeah.
so we went, the representative is GenCom, which my understanding is they kind of pick and choose the best technology from a bunch of different providers to meet whatever our needs are. But any recommendations, I mean,
Providers.
oh, yes.
They do a lot.
They have state contracts.
Yeah, the company we talked to, they actually, I think they, like the legislative branch in Washington, they've set that room up and they got buttons and everything for voting, and so they can go as far as we want to as well, but.
And in conversation with them too, I think it was right after we had made these upgrades. And if I remember correctly, they said that their average cost was like 15,000 or something.
Yeah, and less than like 7,000 to 20,000 somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was very important. It seemed to be very important.
All they do is council chambers.
Well, I would be interested in seeing that because definitely the bid we got was not that competitively priced. It was really, really great, had some really impressive technology in it, but it was definitely not in that price point. So that would be, I'd like to know who they are and get their information.
If I see them again, I'll collect it next April, I think.
Information.
Okay, and then next time.
The other thing was just ADA accessibility and compliance. We are required to offer some sort of ADA accessibility if it's needed for anyone who'd like to attend council. In looking at the law, it doesn't really specify what we need to do, but, a big thing is accommodating people who might be hard of hearing or deaf. And we don't really have, as far as I know, any kind of budget or technology set aside for that. And so, something that I had discussed with Rhonda is, working with maybe USU or the tech college, finding people who are sign language interpreters, to have somebody that we can work with contracted out to come if that is needed. There's also technology options like assistive listening devices. We just need to have a little bit of direction as far as what we want to pursue to meet those requirements and how much money we want to set aside.
I just have an idea, because on my smartphone, if I'm watching a video and I turn the volume down, it automatically generates captions.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that we could look at? I mean, instead of trying to arrange to get somebody here to sign,
Potentially,
if we just had captions, some type of equipment, it couldn't be too awful difficult to get captions put on our.
that would probably be part of a larger technology improvement package. The bid that we actually got included live automatic transcription. That's a Google service. And so that is a subscription service. I'm not sure about the specifics of it. It can be totally live and made on the screen.
It can. Zoom has the same thing. So, because I teach with it and I just hit the transcription button and again, it's trying to do it live, so sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not 100% accurate, but it does work well enough. I think someone could get an idea of what's happening.
And something that came up also in that bidding process in regards to like microphones and improving our audio technology for that. If you don't have how do I describe it, like a dedicated feed for each mic, it's really hard for those AI programs to identify who is speaking and to generate accurate transcriptions when there's multiple speakers in a room. So that would kind of circle us back to needing to improve our audio equipment, not just our video.
You bring up a good point. And you know what I think a really good upgrade would be, and it wouldn't cost anything? Shut all these mics off except for the one that's talking. And then the one that's talking pushes the button and they speak, and then they turn it off. So anybody that's having side conversations, it's not picking that up. Because right now they're all on all the time, and that's completely opposite. Anywhere else I've been in a setting like this, they're always off. Then when you go to speak, you turn it on, you speak,
Do you
turn it off.
do you have buttons on those mics?
We
Can you
do.
that?
We turn them off.
Okay, so maybe I can reach out to Spectrum and see if they can switch that. I don't know.
If they just switch that would basically fix that.
Right, so maybe pursue looking at a subscription for transcribing, for like live transcribing, and also trying to switch those mics.
I think that be a first step, yeah.
Well, that's fine.
And then we'll try to get new council chambers, and then if we do, there's gonna be some upgrades that need to be done at that point too, so.
I think I got the direction I needed, thank you.
Thank you. We have open training tonight, and Josh, or Cal, let's just call him Mr. Bake. Mr. Bake has found a 7-minute video. One of the things, while we're watching this sunshine, when I shared that Google Drive folder with you, it had the council assignments. If you would be able to bring that up by the time this video is done, then we can go over those as a council tonight too, where we have one new council member, and just maybe do some juggling of those assignments, and maybe we can get it done tonight. And Robbie's been hounding me what his responsibilities are. I keep telling him, yeah, I told him I'd have it done tonight, and so I don't, but I will. We'll do it tonight, and we'll have it. It won't take that long, I don't believe.
Speaking of technology. It's just the state auditor's website.
Oh, you got it? No,
Yeah, thank you. If you've had this training before, you know, used to be about an hour, it was 20 minutes. This year, the state auditor's website has a 7-minute video.
And everyone does have a, right here, an affidavit
Yeah, please sign those.
that you need to sign saying that you took the, yeah, of course. You know what, that's sunshine also, thinking about, you know, when we were talking about the committees, this is probably something we ought to do at them, especially with planning and zoning and review and stuff.
Do you want those on the next agendas?
I think it'd be good, yeah.
It's the state law that ensures government actions and deliberations are openly conducted. Before we continue, keep in mind that this video is an overview, and exceptions may exist based on your entity type. So let's consider an open and public meeting. It's when a governing body majority meets to discuss or act upon government business. It includes the meetings sometimes referred to as workshops or executive sessions. Regular meetings, public hearings, electronic meetings, and emergency meetings are all open and public meetings. Open and public meetings don't include chance or social meetings. A public hearing is a type of open and public meeting where citizens have a reasonable opportunity to speak. Public hearings happen when a government adopts a budget or imposes or increases taxes or fees. An electronic meeting is a type of open and public meeting that's convened electronically, such as via phone or the internet. Remember, the governing body must adopt a resolution, rule, or ordinance allowing and governing electronic meetings. An open and public meeting may be closed to discuss any of the following: a person's character, competence, or health, security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, collective bargaining, litigation, purchase, sale, or lease of property if an open discussion would prevent the entity from completing the transaction on the best terms, investigations of criminal misconduct, and private or protected information for the Utah Procurement Code, including trade secrets. 2/3 of the governing body need to vote yes to close a meeting. Quick math. 2 divided by 3 equals 66.7%. Let's say your governing body has 5 members. If 3 out of the 5 members vote yes, that equals 60%, which is not equal to or greater than 66.7%, which means you're 1 member short, and instead need 4 out of 5 members to vote yes. During a closed meeting, a governing body can interview someone applying to fill an elected position, discuss filling a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, discuss the character, competence, or health of a person whose name was submitted for consideration to fill a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, or approve any ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment. If a closed meeting is discussing a person's character, competence, or health, or security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, no recording or minutes are required. However, the presiding member needs to sign a sworn written statement stating such. If the closed meeting is held for any other reason, a recording must be made. Emergency meetings may be held to discuss an urgent matter due to unforeseen circumstances. In order to hold the meeting, the best notice that's feasible is provided at the time, location, and topics to be considered. An attempt is made to contact all governing body members, and the governing body majority approves the meeting. Entities that hold regular meetings need to provide notice at least annually of the year's meeting schedule. As always, the notice must include date, time, and place. For entities that don't hold regularly scheduled regular meetings, 24 hours notice must be provided. All meetings, whether regularly scheduled in advance over the course of the year or scheduled as needed, must provide no less than 24 hours notice of meeting agendas. If a public hearing is held, public notice requirements change. Make sure to distinguish between regular meeting notice requirements and public hearing notice requirements. For regular meetings, an entity is only required to notify a newspaper and doesn't need to pay to publish a notice. For public hearings, notice must be published in at least one issue of a newspaper. If a newspaper of general circulation isn't available, written notice is posted in 3 public places within the entity's boundaries. Regular meetings require 24 hours notice. Public hearings require 7 days notice. For both regular meetings and public hearings, written notice must be posted at the principal office of the governing body, or, if no such office exists, at the building where the meeting will be held. Governing bodies must also provide notice of open and public meetings on the public notice website at publicnotice.utah.gov. By posting on the website and providing the email of the local newspaper, governing bodies can also meet the requirement to notify a newspaper. However, such as publishing in a newspaper still apply. Typically, posting on the public notice website is done by the records officer, recorder, or clerk. However, it's the governing body's responsibility to ensure notice is provided. State Archives has prepared a training manual and quick guide for owners and posters, as well as training videos that can be accessed at their website at archives.utah.gov. If your entity is increasing a fee or undergoing taxation for a property tax increase, be aware that there are additional notice and posting requirements. Public meeting agendas need to include reasonably specified topics to be considered, with each topic listed under a separate agenda item on the meeting agenda. The governing body may not consider a topic in an open meeting that wasn't on the agenda. If a topic not on the agenda is raised by the public during an open meeting, the The body may discuss the topic. However, final action may not be taken on the new topic during that meeting. Meeting minutes and an audio recording are required for all open meetings, with limited exceptions. When an open or closed meeting is required to be recorded, it must be unedited and contain all portions of the meeting. Recordings of open meetings must be made available within 3 days. Every entity needs to establish procedures for the governing body's approval of minutes. Pending minutes are written minutes prepared in written form and are subject to change before being approved by the governing body. Pending minutes must contain a clear indication, such as a draft or pending watermark, that the governing body hasn't yet approved the minutes and that they're subject to change. Pending minutes must be made available within 30 days. Minutes are written minutes of the meeting that have been approved by the governing body. Approved minutes are the official record of the meeting and must be made available within 3 business days. Whoever is responsible for taking the minutes during meetings, typically the records officer, recorder, or clerk, needs to be familiar with what often requires to be contained in the minutes. When a governing body closes a meeting, the following must be publicly announced and entered into the minutes of the open meeting at which the closed meeting was approved. The reason or reasons for holding the closed meeting, the location where the closed meeting will be held, and the vote of each member of the governing body, either for or against a motion to close the meeting. The recording and any minutes must include the date, time, and location of the meeting, the names of the governing body members present and absent, and the names of all others present, except where disclosure would infringe on the confidentiality necessary to fulfill the original purpose of closing the meeting. You should access our local government resource center at resources.auditor.utah.gov.
That's it? Any questions on that? Or, do you have any additional things? Mr. Bate?
That's it.
To add to that, is there a quiz?
There's a quiz if you want to take it.
Should we see how we do? How many questions?
5.
Let's try it. This could be bad.
The governing body must ensure that notice of a public hearing is published in the newspaper, even if the newspaper requires the entity to pay for the publication. True or false?
Everybody true? For your hand. Everybody false.
True. When the majority of the governing body meets to discuss or act upon the business of the entity, it is considered a public meeting. True. Which of the following is an example of when a public hearing is required? Choose only one best answer. Adopting a budget, imposing a tax, increasing a fee, or all of the above. Which of the following is an example of when a public hearing is required?
Yeah.
Adopting a budget, imposing a tax, increasing a fee, all of the above.
All the above.
A.
A, all the above?
Greater than all. Slow.
Adopting a budget, imposing a tax, increasing a fee, or all of the above.
Seems like increasing a fee doesn't necessarily need it.
Yeah, it does. That requires a public hearing.
This is a public hearing.
Oh, yeah.
If it's in resolution, then.
All of the above need a public hearing. I was thinking
All the above. Which is funny, it said choose the one best. True or false? A governing body is required to provide a member of the public the opportunity to speak during an open meeting.
false.
Are we good with that? False.
But we should, just because we're nice.
Public hearing, true, not false. A majority of governing board members attend the same church and may be in the same room at the same time. What should they do? Have the governing body members find a different church? Make sure enough governing body members will not attend the same week. Provide notice of a public meeting. Or nothing. This falls within a chance or social meeting exception.
D. Plus one.
last one. You guys got 100%.
Sweet.
Too bad.
Were you able to find that?
Yeah, I'm trying to, there you go.
Excellent. So just wanted to look at this really, really quickly. This is how the assignments were given. We do have, instead of Councilman Hancock, now we have Councilman Cloward.
On airport board or?
Well, I haven't adjusted anything yet.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to go through and list everything and see if there's a few things that we can move and massage. So is there anybody that would be interested in the airport? Besides me. Okay. What about, so who do we have? Well, somebody will have to take that. So Don, you're okay with city beautification, planning and zoning?
Yeah, I need to do a better job on the city beautification, but other than zoning, I think I'm good when I can get to the meeting. It's just sometimes I can't get to it.
Okay, so we have Don and Cody Allen. So on the city beautification, you want to do the airport?
Taking you off the pro beautification airport, put me on the airport.
You want to make that move? Yep. What about, let's see, Economic Development Committees? We had Bo there because he was with Strata and they have a position on that. So we had him come in that and participate. Is there anyone that would be interested in that?
I'm still on that now, correct?
Yeah. So I have 2 councilmen assigned to each one for the most part, so that it's good when if there's something that's discussed at that meeting, if one or the other can't make it, at least we have representation there, but if they both make it, that's even better.
I wouldn't mind giving up finance and audit to Roosevelt, if you would want it, because I think he's pretty big.
Yeah, I'd be fine to do that if you want to take out the different.
Do EDC.
Okay. Yeah, because you're attending that anyway, for the most part, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I visit with Rhonda quite often, try to keep track of things, and I'd be happy to go to EDC.
Yeah, and then put Councilman Barrett at EDC. Well, and I was thinking, you had interest, Rowdy, in some of the Parks and Rec stuff. You've been going to a lot of those meetings as well.
I've been on that committee.
So why don't you take me off Arts Park Rec? I'm in the second column there, and put Rowdy there. It's the Roosevelt Park.
4th of July, Red
Yeah,
Mountain,
yeah. Take me off that one and put Rowdy, since I'm gonna do the finance, and put Rowdy there. Be good.
Yeah, do you want to do that one, the golf course? Would you put Rowdy on the golf course committee? We haven't formed that yet. It's been approved. The resolution has been approved. We counted it up today. We have 5 committees. And we had 1 4 years ago. So we have quite a bit of, no, we had 2. So
I'd be interested in the golf course.
Okay.
So.
You want to put Don Lusenbark on that? But that's just one more we have to juggle, and we're trying to get all of these committees sorted out to where it's not, overwhelming. It is overwhelming. We're trying to get it to where it's not overwhelming. So.
Looks like we just need one more person for beautification cleanup. I'll do that one.
You want to do that one, Rowdy?
Because the other ones, we only need one.
Yeah. Mosquito abatement, you're still good there?
Yeah. We got CT and you back.
Nope. That was good.
Speaking of the beautification cleanup, who would I need to visit with on that one?
So the Interfaith Council, that was the other council that we just approved to make official, right? Well, we haven't approved, we brought it up for discussion, we didn't approve.
No, that was the yeah, I know.
Can we have that, we were thinking about doing it this
It's
meeting, but
hey. You just want to put it on for your next meeting.
Let's do that. I assume that it probably was. I forgot to.
It's just the way our meeting schedule's gone. You said
Okay, so we'll do that next. And then the Interfaith Council would work with, they've done a lot of those types of things. And so I would say with them, I know in the springtime, we have where K will allow freedom. We try to coordinate the city beautification. They haven't done a great job just because it's been kind of tough, but yeah, that can definitely be we've got, well, you were involved when we did the Northeast Gulch cleanup and all of that. So we've done some pretty big projects.
And I know April is usually when K&K does their spring cleanup, their free dump, and you bring your, so, but I was just thinking if there's anything else. I know the city does a good job putting the flowers out and those kind of things, so that's.
part of that too. And I honestly loved when the city put the dumpsters down towards our area. I think the city paid for a couple big dumpsters just in 3 or 4 different places down in Southtown area, kind of where the trailers and Fifth East and the Gulch and all that, because there's a lot of garbage that blows into the Gulch, and wouldn't hurt to just, and then people down there have a lot of junk.
Well, I'll coordinate with the Interfaith group and see what we can get going on that. But I think there is some good cleanup projects we could work on in the city.
Which reminds me, I did have a conversation with Chief Watkins about, we do have some ordinances for cleanup and weeds and those types of things. It's really difficult for them to enforce right now. They're having an issue also with, not having a dog catcher. And this was a side conversation we had, but I think it's worthy to bring up in this meeting really quickly. And maybe having a position where we have somebody that enforces the ordinances and catches dogs, something like that. So it's kind of a dual purpose. It's hard to just have one person do just one of those and.
I love the idea of having some ordinance enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need both.
So just a thought. And I know Chief Watkins would really appreciate us approving something like that, but that's another item for future discussion. So with this, the only thing I can see, let's move forward with how it is, as long as everybody feels okay. It looks like everyone has about 3 responsibilities, which is good. And the only thing I can think of is, can we make sure that the dates and times are that?
Yeah. Check all those and I don't know if everyone has access to the same file, but I can just update the dates and times
and then just send it out in an email. That would be great. Yeah, they don't have access to it, but if we can be,
First Thursday.
right. And so
It's all good.
the airport board meeting and the Arts Parks and Rec meet on the same night, so it's 5:30 to 7. So it's United to go to both of those. Okay. Yeah, what it is, so from my perspective, and I've had this conversation with Josh and Sunshine today, but I've had this conversation several times with Josh. We're getting enough committees where it's almost impossible for a mayor to handle all of that and to keep track of all of that. And so what we're trying to do is get staff. So I've shared all of these spreadsheets that I have with Sunshine, and she's gonna help keep those up, because I mean, you're talking 5 committees. Probably about 40 to 50 people on those 5 committees. And you're every year appointing a third of those every year and trying to keep track of when you have people resigning and everything else. So before we add another committee, I felt like it was important that we get our arms around what we have and delegate all of that out to where we know it's going to function properly before we add another one and it just kind of. So, but as soon as I think, I would say after March, once we reappoint everybody and get new appointments in, then we can look at that and get that one going as well. Any other thoughts? Okay, if not, next item, adjourned.
Do we have committee reports, which I have now?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't on there,
Not on there.
but and I have nothing to report, Mayor, but I thought I would.
That's a good thought. Do you have anything for us? I don't necessarily have anything.
We just discussed, spring court starting up. There's pickleball leagues and baseball and softball.
I'm sorry, Councilman Flowers, who's helping with the pickleball? Because USU is actually setting up some pickleball at their gym there, and maybe that'd be another.
Royce Porter is the one that's been kind of.
You might have in contact, if you can let them know. I know that they set up a court at the USU in their gym, and they actually had some like ball paddles and balls are not the best, but people brought their own. But anyway, I know sometimes just finding a place to do it, and like I said, I was at Utah State, it was last week, and saw some people playing just in the gym there. So that, if they can reach out to Utah State and see what they can do, I'm sure we could work something out. I mean, I don't know, but I'm hoping we can.
Thank you.
Anything else? Dr. Allen, that's negative. Okay.
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second it.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Oh, I know, man, I'm getting excited. I gotta get the thing.